Hi, my name is James Hutchinson, and I'm the field safety technician for our company. Today, I would like to give you a brief overview of the chemical chlorine. First off, what is chlorine? Chlorine is a chemical element that is used in a wide variety of applications in our industry. Some of the common usages of chlorine include regular household bleach, obviously, many chemical solvents, pesticides, herbicides. It's used in the production of synthetic rubber, as well as water purification systems all around the nation. Chlorine can occur as both a gas, or it can be cooled and compressed into a liquid for shipment and transport. What are the hazards related to chlorine? While it's not flammable, if chlorine were to mix with gasoline, ammonia, or turpentine, or a host of other chemicals, it can become very explosive. So you don't want to do that. But the biggest risk of it is the health hazards that it can cause. And as we know, every health hazard has to have a mode of entry into the body, and chlorine has 3 of the 4 of them. Inhalation is the most common of these entries, because it does occur in a naturally gaseous state. And also, chlorine is heavier than air, so once it's leaking, it's going to go to the lowest areas, it's going to settle low to the ground. You can also absorb chlorine through the skin, and it has a violent chemical reaction with your skin whenever it touches. It mixes with the oil in your skin, and it's very, very corrosive. It causes chemical burns, something you don't want to do. And whenever it's in its liquid form, it can also cause a kind of a frostbite effect to you. Ingestion is a little more unlikely because you're not going to accidentally eat a ham sandwich, covered in chlorine, because your hand is going to be burning. But it is more feasible to think that chlorine would get into a water supply that you're drinking from, and then you get ingested into your body like that. Now let's move on to some of the symptoms of chlorine exposure. They include blurred vision, burns to the skin, burns to the eyes, nose, and throat, coughing, chest tightness, difficulty breathing. Over an extended period of time, there will be fluid in the lungs. You can get nausea and vomiting. You'll have watery eyes, wheezing, and yes, these symptoms can include death, with enough exposure. And that's at about 1,000 parts per million, which isn't really that much. But while we're talking about exposure limits, OSHA has set the permissible exposure limit at 1 part per million. However, the NIOSH and the ACGIH have established the PEL to be half of that at 0.5 parts per million. Now, in the case of a chlorine release, the first thing you need to worry about is the wind direction. You need to find the wind direction and go up and cross wind. Preferably, if you can find a higher point where you're away from the leak, that's going to be better, because as we said earlier in the video, it likes to settle in low areas. It'll settle into pockets. Now, if you were to have it on your skin, you need to remove any clothing you have on, especially if it has it on there, and get to the nearest safety shower, because there should be one nearby if chlorine's in the area. And you need to wash at least for 15 minutes with soap and water your entire body. Now, while I say you need to remove clothing, if you have it on your shirt, don't take your shirt off over your head. Have someone cut your shirt or tear your shirt off, because you don't want to risk getting the chlorine in your eyes, because it's going to be very bad. You probably won't see again. Now, if you ingest it somehow, don't induce vomiting. That's the last thing you want to do. At that point, all you can really do is contact, emergency personnel and hope for the best, because they're going to try and give you a lot of treatments and get it cleaned out of you. Now let's talk about the personal protective equipment when dealing with chlorine. Anytime that you're around chlorine, like even if it's in process piping, the bare minimum you should have is monogoggles, because of the damage it can do to your eyes. You need to have yourself an escape respirator, and that's just a carbon filter respirator that you can put in, escape from the area. You'll be able to breathe long enough to get away. You're not going to be standing there working in it all day, but you will be able to make it out alive. And you should have chemical gloves, you know, because your hands are always the first thing to get hurt. Now, if you're in a more high-risk situation where there's actually chlorine coming out, your PPE is going to change. You're probably going to want a self-contained breathing apparatus, and you're also going to want a chemical suit on because you don't want it getting all over your body. And you want rubber boots because it's going to be spraying and it's going to be on the ground. And you're going to want either a face shield or a space hood, something to protect you from the chlorine. And that's why it's very important whenever you're dealing with any kind of chemicals. You don't just fill out a JSA. You go to the job site, you see what's going on, and you figure out what you need to do. Thank you, and I hope this video has helped you.